The proposed free trade agreement between India and Britain is, we are told, still being negotiated. It is in fact being renegotiated after it was considered an almost done deal by Diwali. But the new government in Britain wants changes, particularly over migration clauses, and since this is about give and take, any change to one aspect will necessarily have consequences on other earlier agreements reached as part of the larger packet of compromises. But through this mess and this morass over the FTA, just what is that one thing that India wants more than anything else, and what is that one thing that Britain wants more than anything else? For Britain, this is above all about Scotch whisky. It wants higher quotas and reduced tariffs. India is the world's biggest market for whisky and the second biggest for Scotch whisky. It imported 136 million bottles of Scotch last year. Not enough for the Scots. The government in Britain has been pressing long and hard over this issue, and as it turns out, successfully, at least in the earlier draft agreement. India is believed to have accepted British demands for reduced tariffs and higher quotas on Scotch whisky. That, no doubt, will be a part of the renegotiations underway, and of course Britain will continue to insist that it must have its way on Scotch. No Scotch, no deal, clearly. For India, the prime demand is over migration. It wants greater ease for its students and professionals to move into Britain and to work and live here. A negotiating position that some are finding inexplicable, that India should offer to open up its markets to more and cheaper Scotch whisky and other British goods, and in return, Britain should take more and more of its best and brightest. Britain is resisting this Indian move. It is asking for a quid pro quo here, that it will accept this demand on condition that India takes back more and more undocumented Indian migrants settled in Britain, and they are the largest number of such migrants in Britain. And now fresh worry has arisen over the issue of generic drugs. A leaked draft of the earlier agreement in the FTA on this aspect of the deal shows that Britain is pushing for continuing patents for its pharma firms for a number of drugs. India, on the other hand, is the world's largest producer of generic drugs, and millions of poor people around the world live on this. It's a lifeline for them. Medicines Sans Frontier has warned that any limitation on this production could be devastating for the health of millions around the world. Officials engaged in the negotiations had indicated earlier that there could, at the first stage, be a limited part agreement on matters not particularly contentious, as they called it, an early harvest program to grab the low-hanging fruit. That was abandoned in the face of optimism that there could be a full deal by Diwali. As it turns out, we have neither, in the face of fresh British demands, and this has given rise to new concern that India may end up giving up too much for too little.